I will explore how magazine's editors in vibrant yet not capital cities, such as Edinburgh and Milan, could promote these peripheral cities. They rely on transnational networks to challenge the dominance of their national metropolis. However, I will show that they use these networks on two contrasting ways. One in a cosmopolitan ideal, and the other in a dimension that will turn out to be more nationalistic. Edinburgh has an ambiguous status as a peripheral city in respect to London, since while not the heart of the British Empire, it was the capital of the Scottish nation, as well as an important economical centre in competition with Glasgow. Strong independentist and nationalist currents found fertile soil in this context and helped produce a kind of cultural renaissance, often referred as to the Celtic Revival. In this context, the first publication I examine is The Evergreen, a northern seasonal, whose editor, gathered around Patrick Geddes, sought to challenge the cultural dominance of London by re-promoting the Scottish capital, apparently, as suggested by the subtitle A Northern, but actually by promoting an anarchist cosmopolitan ideal. On the other hand, in Italy, Milan had long been a vibrant cultural center and the economic, financial, and industrial heart of northern Italy, as well as a major hub of international trade. Indeed, during the unification of Italy in 1870, Milan had competed with Rome to become the capital of the new Italian nation-state. The second publication I study is Poesia, rivista internazionale, centered on Marinetti, who focused on the Parisian and international stage, as underlined by the subtitle Internazionale. And he sought to raise Milan to the rank of the new cultural center of the Italian avant-garde. I will examine to what extent registration in the center provided the magazine with an identity. In this context of national rivalries and tension, the editors worked to enhance their cities as cultural centers. On one hand, by re-promoting Edinburgh in the Evergreen, and on the other, in Poesia, by capturing the cultural legacy of a Roman magazine. I will start by analyzing how the Evergreen reflects and promotes the revival of Edinburgh. Patrick Geddes, one of the editors of the Evergreen, a biologist, sociologist, and pioneering town planner, arrived in Edinburgh in 1884, by way of London, Paris, Naples, Mexico City, and so on. He was 36 years old when he directly played an important role in the renewal of Edinburgh's Old Town. Indeed, between 1890 and 1893, he rehabilitated a significant number of buildings in slum, especially Ramsay Garden, an octagonal house built by the poet Alan Ramsay in 1733. Geddes' work in this context of an urban renewal project is driven by both anarchist and academic ideals, in order to improve the living conditions of the working class, but also to renew some buildings for student accommodation. He managed to turn the gardens into an ambitious university and a cosmopolitan cultural center. Actually, as I have shown in the previous Esprit conference, Ramsay Gardens welcomed the summer meetings, gathering men of letters, academics, and anarchists from Italy, France, Belgium, Germany, Russia, and so on. The Evergreen appears to be an echo chamber of this renovation work and a great promotional tool. Indeed, the editorial manifesto and several articles highlight the renewal of the city. Victor Branford, one of the main editors of the Evergreen, reviewing it for the Bookman, underlines the organic link between this urban planning project and the magazine. I quote, it has grown up on the soil of this and yet it is out of this slums that the Evergreen has come forth. The inscription on its title page, published in the Law Market of Edinburgh and by Patrick Geddes and colleagues, is not a fanciful legend, but a sober fact. Actually, not only the magazine provides a showcase for these urban renewal works, but its architecture and editorial project are shaped by these ideals. The title, The Evergreen, is indeed directly linked to the figure of the poet Alan Ramsay, who published in 1724 The Evergreen, being a collection of Scots poems, as Victor Brantford and Patrick Geddes explain in a prefatory note. In the purpose to reawaken interest on the older national literature. The poet's legacy thus intersects with the urban, media, and poetic issues of the Evergreen's publisher. Moreover, the city is displayed in the magazine through illustration, such as James Cadenhead's view or the black and white silhouette of the castle by William Smith. These two pictures offer a tour of the city that frames Patrick Geddes' text on the Scots Renaissance. The enhancement of Edinburgh stands now, however, in competition with London, but rather in a complementary relationship. Indeed, the mention of the two publishers and two places of publication on the cover and the title page of the first issue reveals the complexity of the Evergreen's plural identity. The mention of Fincher Unwin, an established and commercial London publisher, while open to the new and daring, underlies the skins of the Scotch publishers. According to a very minimalist theme in hands of Patrick Geddes, it was planned that writing, editing, printing, and binding will be done in Edinburgh, distribution in London. This editorial strategy emerged from Patrick Geddes' meeting with the Scottish writer William Sharp, who fled London to settle in Ramsay Gardens. They both dreamed, I quote, to recreate in Edinburgh an active centre, and so erased the tremendous centralizing power of the metropolis of London. This also corresponded to William Sharp's personal editorial strategy, which allowed him to act on the London and Scottish stages through the creation of a Celtic female alter ego, Fiona MacLeod. I will now compare this editorial strategy of promoting the renewal of Edinburgh as a cultural centre through a complementary relationship with London, with the more aggressive strategy Marinetti adopted in Milan to challenge Roma. When he created Poesia, Marinetti was already a recognized author and poet on the international stage, particularly in Paris, when he had been acclaimed and had contributed to several magazines. In 1995, he would gain the star contributors of a Roman magazine called Il Convito to his own benefit. This magazine, directed by Adolfo De Bossis and created by Giovanni Pascoli, Gabriele D'Annunzio, Giuseppe Cellini, Josué Carducci, intended to promote and legitimate Rome, young Italy's capital, as a cultural center rich of the glorious past of the ancient Rome. With a skillful layout of the first issue of Poesia, Marinetti succeeded in capturing the leading figure of Il Convito in order to insert them to his own review. He first dedicated Poesia to Josué Carducci, the author of the Convinto's motto. Then he took advantage of a republication of Giovanni Pascoli Poemi Conviviali, some of which had been published in Il Convito, Indeed, the first letters of memberships, which opened Poesia under the banner for per l'onore e per la storia, for honor and for history, is signed by Giovanni Pascoli, and the last one by Adolfo De Bossis. The director of Il Convito himself underlines the link with his magazine. I can translate. I am delighted to know that your Convito is so close to publication. I wish it a better fate than my own attempt. The first work published in Poesia is surprisingly not a poem, but an extract from D'Annunzio tragedy La Nave, not only to honor this internationally famous Roman master, but also to profit from his success. Finally, the first volume closes with a portrait of Giovanni Pascoli, so the exhibition of the network of collaborators under the privileged relation with the Roman Il Convito completed this instrumentalization. The portrait highlights the profile of a national poet, and the bold typography brings forth the title Poemi Conviviali in a text by Sam Benelli, co-founder of Poesia. The last sentence expresses the ambition of the magazines with an international vocation, able to make the Italian genius known beyond borders much more effectively than Il Convito managed to do. Let us now look at the transnational dimension of the Evergreen and Poesia, two periodicals who actually decentered and challenged established national centers through transnational networks. Patrick Geddes' urban project is not just about promoting the renewal of the old Edinburgh, but also by putting the city on the international stage. In 1892, he restored the Outlook Tower, which becomes the headquarters of Geddes and colleagues. He transformed it into, I quote, a place of outlook and a type museum as a key to a better understanding of Edinburgh and its region, but also to help people to get a clear idea of its relation to the world at large. The visitor is indeed invited to make a concrete and symbolic journey from the world to the city of Edinburgh. By doing so, Patrick Geddes symbolically places the peripheral city at the center of the world and secures a universal role for it. The magazine, in turn, reflects this plan. The different sections are indeed inspired by this symbolic progression from the world to the north. Victor Branford makes it clear make clear that this corresponds to a cosmopolitan project and not a regionalistic, nationalistic, nor independentist withdrawal. Hence, while we would renew local feeling and local color, we would also express a larger view of Edinburgh, not only as a national and imperial, but as an European city. So, Geddes' commitment to national revival was profoundly international in outlook. A specific effort to bridge France and Britain in the Evergreen actually involved peripheral forces via Belgium. For example, William Sharp's translation of Charles van Leurberg's Nightcomers promotes the effort of La Jeune Belgique, as the introductory notes indicate. He quoted La Jeune Belgique, a Belgian periodical, or Le Coq Rouge, by promoting the Belgian Renaissance through a periodical networks. Thus offered the Scots a way out of their isolation and a model for the Celtic revival. The link with France acquired a more institutional dimension with the creation in 1895 of the Franco-Scottish Society. We can see here a drawing by John Duncan, The Way to Reims, that represents the historical friendship between the two countries, where the British feature the bad guys. In the drawing, Joan of Arc is surrounded by guard and angel with Celtic ornaments, which echoes the ornament of the magazine, here mixed with the fleur-de-lis of the French royalty. So the same feeling of being in a dominated position and the same desire for renewal led the Evergreen editor to turn toward Belgium or to reinterpret through a mythical figure both French and English national and official ideology. In Milan, Marinetti developed a transnational strategy by imposing Milan on the international stage, before switching to a more nationalistic dimension. Poesia actually favored Italian poets, French authors, and others from 76 countries. And offered, for example, a poem from William Butler, yet not translated. In April 1999, the Review of Review, under the title Futurism and the International Press, reveals a periodical network beyond the border between literary magazine and the mainstream press. However, relations with the foreign literature were orchestrated according to a national reorientation of the international network and the promotion of Italy by the futurists. For example, they manipulated the tribute paid to Swinburne to emphasize his attachment to Italy. At last, Poesia offers a platform for a transnational opening, instrumentalized and to make Italy the launching pad of futurism, offering the manifesto an international after effect. Indeed, Marinetti published the manifesto in Italian newspaper before then presenting them in the front page of Le Figaro. This strategy appears clearly in the English translation of the manifesto with the sentence, "It is in Italy." But ironically enough, history has retained Paris as the birthplace of the futurist avant-garde because of its international showcase that offered by a newspaper like The Figaro. Similarly, the English newspaper received the Evergreen mainly as a pale copy of the famous Yellow Book. So, a careful study of periodicals, with particular attention paid to their content and to their networks, allows us to understand the complexity of editorial strategy that intersect with ideological and political concerns. For the editors of the Evergreen, making Edinburgh a cosmopolitan and transnational cultural center allows them to break away from the domination of London by proposing another marginal models than those offered by English nationalism and the Celtic revival. For the Milanese Poesia, almost the opposite movement took place. The international showcase provided by the magazine allowed the futurists to legitimately impose themselves on the national stage.